Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. My name's Daniel Cott. I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sports Keith Jackson. Keith, no other way around it. That's a really bad result for Rangers and Derek McInnes tonight.
Well, it's been a bad start for Derek McInnes, and I think he'd admit it himself. But tonight, it just became a bit of a nightmarish start, didn't it? That's 4 games, 2 draws, 2 defeats, out of the Europa League, I think against pretty ordinary opposition. Listen, you can point to the fact that he's nowhere near getting his team together and he's had injuries and all this, but the bottom line is, if you're going to make a success of it as the Rangers manager, you need to win games. And it really couldn't have been a much more difficult or disappointing start for Derek McInnes. He's going to have to make up some ground here, because you could hear the reaction inside Ibrox at the end of the game. Fans aren't happy. The fans started to turn about halfway through the second half, and I could totally understand why, because you could see it coming. You could see the game getting away from Rangers. You felt that the Polish side were probably going to get a goal, and they did. Derek McInnes changed his lineup, the formation of his team at halftime, having changed to back for the first half, and I actually think it worked really well. I thought it was easily the best 45 minutes that he's had as manager. But then he changed it back. It went back to a back 4 at half time. Ross McCrory came on and played left back. And Rangers, whatever impetus they'd built up in that first half, they lost it, I felt, for 15 minutes at the start of the second half. When they tried to pick it up, all of a sudden they were getting picked off in the counter-attack, and you could just feel the whole momentum of the tie going. It was no surprise when it was levelled up at 1-1. And after that, no surprise that Rangers didn't have anything, didn't have the wherewithal to go and get themselves a winning goal to take it into extra time. Really, really flat. And I think Derek McInnes will be really worried. I think he'll be really worried about the standard of the team that he's got. He'll be really worried about probably the decisions that he's making. I think he'll just be perplexed by the whole thing a little bit. Rangers are going to have to clear their heads, and they're going to have to, use an old expression, get their foot in the ball, and metaphorically, and try and start building some sort of momentum. Because right now they're all over the place in terms of the selection, the lineups, the way they're playing. I feel a little bit for Lon Shankland. Obviously, he's bursting to do well. Everything that's happening for him is he scored a penalty to put Rangers 1-up, and you thought at that point Rangers look as if they should be comfortable tonight. I'd predicted that they'd get a 3-1 win. And I thought at that point, yep, that's probably exactly the way this is going to go. And I felt that way all the way up to half time. But Lon Shankland, I don't know if he's snatching at stuff. I don't know if he's trying too hard. But you could feel the fans getting on top of him a little bit as well when play was opening up in front of him, and he was either taking a wrong touch or a heavy touch or not getting the break of the ball. You could start to hear the fans turning, because they're obviously looking at him as, well, you're the captain, you're the difference maker. You get into that situation, we're expecting you to rifle one into the top corner. He scored a penalty in pre-season, he scored a penalty tonight, so he's off the mark. But you kind of get the feeling he just needs one to fly in, and he might get his confidence, and he might start to get into rhythm. But that's, it's unfair to pick out Lon Shankland right now, because the same could be said right across that whole team. I thought Yokota looked really good in the first half.
Really tired though, Keith, in the second.
I thought he looked shattered after about 10 minutes of the second half, Daniel, and he just fell completely out of the game. But he does look like a bag of tricks, and that'll be, if Rangers are trying to pick through the bones of this and find a positive, Yokota is a positive. But, again, I think Derek McInnes would be rightly alarmed by the way that he fell out of the game. You've got to have more energy than that. You can't put on a 45 minutes performance. Gassama on the other side looked bright and lively, particularly in the first half. I thought he was the better of the two wingers in the second half. And then Derek McInnes makes the decision to take off his two centre midfielders in the one go. And that's another big call in the match. I think when you're taking off Nico Raskin, you're taking off a central midfield player who's got a bit of a goal threat. And at that point, Rangers were desperate for a goal. Look, I could go on. There was a moment in the first half when Raskin put in a brilliant cross. Lawrence Shankland didn't commit towards the ball. He kind of hung off his defender. Raskin seemed to dig him out for not going, because Raskin was pretty pleased with the ball that he put in. It was a good ball. Is there a bit of needle between Nico Raskin and Lawrence Shankland because of the armband? I don't know, but I do know from watching that performance and all four of the Rangers' performances so far this season, they've got some serious work to do. They are miles and miles and miles off it, Dan.
As you can probably imagine, Keith, we've got tons and tons of comments coming in, and I'll try and get through as many as I can. Before I get really stuck into them, though, the one thing I wanted to just take up with you as well, Doug says there's no speed in the team, so pedestrian, easy to defend against. See that in the closing stages there, Keith? Rangers didn't even look creating a chance, never mind scoring.
And that I think will be one of the hardest things for Rangers fans to swallow tonight. They've seen European nights, they've seen games when their team's been up against it, they've seen games when they've lost goals and lost a bit of momentum. But what they expect, what they demand at Rangers is that, you know, when you're up against it, you dig deep, you produce something, you get forward, and they as you said, Dan, they looked as if they'd completely run out of steam and run out of ideas. And that's another thing that will really irritate and anger and frustrate the Rangers supporters, because they won't accept that. They expect people to go for as long as that ball's still in play. Rangers look as if they're prepared to accept a bad result, and I think that's probably the worst thing that you could level at a Rangers or a Celtic team for that matter. A team that's prepared to accept going off the park with the wrong result. Rangers have got too many players that seem prepared to do that. Yeah, I really didn't see anybody on there, and as that game was getting away from Rangers, who tried to grab it by the scruff of the neck and do something about changing it. That's a fairly damning thing to say about Rangers side when they're in front of their own supporters up against fairly average opposition in a Europa League qualifier. As I said, he's got a whole lot of work out, that man on the screen.
Aye, absolutely. Let me throw a few of these comments at you, Keith. And look, I'm just a messenger, obviously, for everyone writes in the Hotline Live. It sounds ridiculous to be saying this a handful of games in. There's already people telling McInnes he needs to go. I mean, let me throw a few.
Daniel, I am not surprised. The Rangers fans are sick to the back teeth of this. And they go into every summer hoping it's going to be different, hoping that a new guy comes in and the whole script changes and it flips on its head and all of a sudden they're competitive. So they've run out of patience. Now, that's got nothing to do with Derek McInnes. It's not his fault that the guys before him, one after the next, has failed to deliver. But it does mean that the Rangers fans start the season with very little credit in the bank in terms of what they're prepared to tolerate. And 4 games without a win, Derek McInnes will know himself. That's going to infuriate the Rangers supporters. He'll know the noise is starting to build. And he'll also know that when the noise does start to build, it's very difficult to turn it down, to dial it down. And guys before him have failed to do that. And there's only one way of doing it, and it's winning games, and winning games consistently. And right now, this Rangers side doesn't look capable of winning consistently, or going on a run of consecutive victories. They just don't look as if they've got the heart for it. And that would be the most concerning thing of all. If you've got a group of players out there and you think, do you care that much? I'm afraid these guys have been letting Rangers down for a long time. There's a lot. Obviously, I keep coming back to it. He's brought in 10 new players, or he will do if they can ever get the PSV winger over the line.
He was there tonight as well. He was in the stands.
Well, maybe tomorrow then. But, you know, for me, they need as many changes as they can get before the end of this window, because there's too many players that have failed too many times and simply cannot be trusted.
Look, I know I'm kind of flogging a dead horse here, but let me read out some of the comments because there's so many of them. Andy says, abysmal, and I see nothing that will improve things. Dance Music says, tonight's display was a culmination of years of poor recruitment. McInnes has made a huge mistake going there. It could ruin his reputation. Ali says, every decision Rangers made this season has been a mess. The decision to postpone the home fixture next weekend could easily go to the Old Firm game in September without winning a game. David says, just own up to another mistake board and go out and get Muscat. Ross Dixon says, I like McInnes, but I'm sorry. Phone Stevie G. Paul McQueen, Rangers were aimless at times. Sean says, can Rangers go big again on Conference League money? So, look, you said it yourself there, Keith. This is the rules of the jungle in Glasgow.
Yeah, it is. And that is one of the positives from Derek McInnes's perspective, or around the Derek McInnes appointment. He knows what the rules of engagement are in this city. This won't come. So a Russell Martin, for example, seemed to be absolutely bemused by the fact that people were getting angry at him because they couldn't see what he was seeing. Derek McInnes at least won't resort to telling you black is white. I'd imagine that his interview after the game tonight, he'll be raging again. I'd imagine he'll be honest. He's been nothing but blunt and truthful thus far, and he's going to have to be that again. That's his one chance just now of taking some Rangers fans with him, because the Rangers fans, as I said, they can't keep being let down continually, and yet they're continually let down. And whether it's Derek McInnes, whether it's Russell Martin, whether it's Philip Clement, whoever it is in the dugout, it's just the same old thing. It's just another guy that comes in, says things are going to be different, and it isn't different. Derek McInnes is going to have to prove, and he's going to have to prove really quickly, that he is the guy that can make the difference. I still think that he will be that guy, but I can completely understand why there's such a bad reaction to what's happened over the first 4 games and to that latest capitulation. For me, Derek McInnes needs to do himself a favour, and that is get shot of every player that he can that's been in there for too long and that has got used to accepting second prizes, and give himself, start with a blank canvas in September. Hope against hope that by that time you haven't already blown the league season, because then it's just going to be a wall of noise from the end of September all the way through at the end of the season. So difficult times, and I don't think Derek McInnes will attempt to sugarcoat it. I think it would be a mistake if he did do, and there's no point in any of us sitting here trying to sugarcoat it. If Derek McInnes had drawn up the worst possible start to his Rangers career, it wouldn't have looked very different from what he's actually got.
See, I mean, this is just my 2 cents for what it's worth, but we talked on here the other night about Rangers lacking an identity crisis, Keith, and that's not going to be solved by sacking Derek McInnes again. And I'll get stuck in the comments for this. There's a lot of people already saying, stop defending McInnes. Not that I particularly think we have, but they need to stick. They really need to back him as much as they can. To as you say, there's players there that we've known for 2 or 3 Rangers managers aren't good enough, and they're still playing games.
Yeah, I agree with that, right? Obviously, but I do understand where the Rangers fans are coming from. I completely understand it. They're furious, they're raging, they expected better than this. They're right to expect better than that. Derek McInnes probably expected better than that. He's probably surprised. I wrote it after the first game, Daniel, at Tannadice, that he probably got a right shock to the system that night, because as much as he would have in with his eyes wide open, I think he'll have been surprised that night at Tannadice with what he saw. And he shouldn't be surprised 4 games in now, because it's the same and it's rinse and repeat. So, yeah, I agree with you. I wouldn't see any point in pulling the trigger on Derek McInnes right now, but I think Derek McInnes will know himself. He can't go on like this. He's going to have to win games, and he's going to have to start immediately.
The other thing that's worth mentioning as well, Keith, we mentioned that Drewk was in the stands tonight. He was down to the bare bones, particularly defensively, McInnes. Do we think he'll get many more players in? I mean, I know he's already saying I think Drewk will be 10. But what's your thoughts? Do you think there will be a few more new faces coming in as well?
Well, Andrew Kavanagh said it, didn't he? And we've seen they are active in the transfer market. You could see from the balance of the team tonight, he desperately needs left-sided defenders, whether it's centre-halves or full-backs. I think he desperately needs somebody that can control a game for the middle of the pitch, because I don't see any of them that he's got in that area of the pitch that look capable of actually running a game of football. They've got all different qualities, but the one quality that you really need in a top class midfielder at Celtic or Rangers is a guy who goes, give me the ball, I'll dictate, I'll take it, I'll start stuff, you know, what Callum McGregor does for Celtic, for example. Rangers don't have one of them. And that, they don't come cheaply. So you would think they would need to find one of them. I think he probably needs a winger, another one to add to the mix. Gassama might have played his way into contention a little bit.
Do you know the only thing I'd say about that though, Keith, is did we not see this with Gassama this time last season? Remember, he was really good against Panathinaikos in a couple of the opening games and then just faded away.
Yeah, absolutely. And wingers, you know, they can be inconsistent.
Aye.
If they're not inconsistent, they're probably not signing for Rangers, because they'd be, you know, Gassama plays he's a 10 out of 10 every week. You know, what a difference he could be. So you're not going to get that, but you certainly need more than 1 in 4 games. And he's looked quite bright, and I thought particularly in the first half tonight, he looked bright when he came on at the weekend. So he's maybe thrown a spanner into the works, or not a spanner into the works, given Derek McInnes an option to think about. He looks as if he might be able to contribute something, although clearly you would expect that Drake will come in and be the first pick on the left-hand side. Yokota looks like a decent option on the right. I wonder if they still like a right winger. And the Chermiti injury means they're probably desperate for a striker. Majovski get thrown on late on, missed a big chance with a header.
Yep.
And just he doesn't look as if that's ever going to work for him. So I think if Rangers could find a way of getting him out the door, freeing up a wage and bringing somebody else in. They've been linked with a striker in the MLS today. God, the boy's name escapes me now. Kevin Kellis, maybe. A Venezuelan striker, big boy. Yeah, he's similar. And Derek McInnes did say they were looking for somebody similar in profile to Chermiti. So in terms of his physical stature, he looks similar. He looks quick. He actually looks like a decent finisher, perhaps more clinical than Chermiti. So that's one that I think I could see Rangers trying to get that done sooner rather than later. But as I said to you, they probably need, you know, if Andrew Kavanagh says they need 4 or 5, I think they probably need more than that. I don't think they'll get more than that. So you'll need to make do, but it definitely needs defensive cover. As I said, left back, probably a left-sided centre-half. I think he needs a midfielder. There's 1, 2, 3, another winger, 4, centre-forward, 5. And as somebody's just pointed out, they're not even going to have the Europa League cash now. It's Conference League at best.
Do you think that'll affect the budget? James writes in saying we'll not make Europa League cut the budget you had to spend. Obviously, conference money won't be as good.
I don't know is the honest answer, but I suspect not. I think Andrew Kavanagh has ring-fenced a sum that he's prepared to invest in the team this summer, and I don't think it was dependent upon European revenue. So I wouldn't expect that the targets will change. I think whatever targets they had ahead of tonight's game will still be the targets tomorrow morning.
Right, before we finish, Keith, we need to give props to the other Scottish teams in Europe tonight, because it's been Rangers obviously a massive setback, but amazing for Motherwell, who managed to get past HJK Helsinki. I haven't seen it yet. Ibrahim said has apparently scored 2 absolutely brilliant goals. They won 2-0 and 3-1 on aggregate. He's starting to look like a really good player, eh?
Yeah, he could be this season's Masmanisi. I am thrilled. And do you know at one point when Rangers were 1-0 up in the game, and I'm thinking, I think they'll probably go on from here. I think they'll win comfortable. And you're looking at it, you're going, Motherwell 2-0 up, Hibs are doing what they need to do in a difficult away venue. And you're thinking, well, last night there was a solar eclipse, and tonight you might have 3 Scottish teams doing what they need to do in Europe. And I didn't know which one would be the more rare occurrence, but then Rangers go and blow that one out. So, yeah.
Well, as you mentioned, Hibs as well, they managed to get through in Macedonia. A colleague, Craig Swan, he filed copy, and he was saying it was absolutely sweltering. All the players dropped to their knees in the full-time whistle. So fair play to them. They're into the playoff round for the second season running. Hearts, they thought the comeback was on in the 87th minute when they went 1-0 up. They could only settle for a 1-1 draw. Respectable against Benfica, you have to say. That sounded really patronising, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, how interested were Benfica? The tools were put away after the first leg. disappointing again. But inevitable, Hearts were never going to get through that tie. I think what they'll want is little building blocks, and maybe getting that result. I hazard to guess that I don't think Benfica would have been right at the top of their game. But even so, even if it was little more than a glamour pre-season friendly, to get that result might help confidence come back. But the tie was lost in Lisbon. Nobody thought for a single solitary second there was ever going to be a comeback there. But yeah, I just it's delighted for Motherwell, delighted for Hibs. I think that's these are big strides, important strides. We've been bemoaning the fact every summer that the teams that get to qualify and get a shot at Europe are almost 9 times out of 10 they're out before the end of August. That looks as if it might not be the case. I know Motherwell get a really tricky tie in Freiburg now.
Yeah.
But do you know what? See the way Motherwell play the game? I think they'll give anybody a good game. So I'm excited for them. I'm delighted for David Gray and Hibs because it was only a few weeks ago that the calls were starting for him. And that's something that Derek McInnes should be clinging to tonight. It can turn, and it can turn quickly. But he's going to have to find a way of getting something out of that team that they don't look like producing for him. If that means clearing out more and bringing in more, then that'll have to be it.
Absolutely. I think before we wrap up, Keith, we give a message to our loyal fans about a slight break we're going to take.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well,
had you forgotten about that?
Well, you might have noticed that our brand new studio, we've not hardly been in it. There's been some technical glitches and it's in need of a bit of overhaul. So I think it might take a couple of weeks, Dan. I think I'll make the most of my time by trying to get away someplace nice. I think you might do the same. So apologies for that. But when the studio's fixed and all the glitches are sorted out, we'll be back. I'll be certainly in the studio. I know you hardly ever go into the studio anyway, Dan, but
breaking up, sorry.
Yeah. So probably a fortnight's time we'll be back. So apologies, we're having an unexpected interruption services, but we will be back as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And I think that brings to the end of tonight's show. Thanks so much for all the comments tonight, Keith. I've been unable to keep up with them. It's honestly been mental. So thanks very much for everyone getting involved. We appreciate it.
I had a feeling it might be busy. I don't ask you why.
Aye, and they didn't let us down. So thank you very much for everyone watching and getting involved. We appreciate it. As Keith says, we'll be back soon. But for now, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Cheers.